Everyone, we are back for another Angle of Pursuit podcast, here to get you set for more NASCAR playoff action. We are headed to Kansas this week for some Hollywood casino action. We will recap Darlington. We will talk a little John Hunter Nemechek getting a full-time ride in 2024, plus a lot more all on this week's Angle of Pursuit.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining back from Las Vegas. I was telling you before the show starts, I am ecstatic for the weekend of sports that we have coming up. I plan on parking myself on the couch probably 30 minutes into game day and probably not moving until maybe post Sunday Night Football. But we'll see where the weekend goes. I mean, between the slate of college games, the NFL Week 1, obviously the NASCAR playoff race, like chef's kiss. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I mean, luckily for me, obviously the wife fully understands now, but with what I do for my job, I'm actually working.
I'm working, honey. Working it's really important.
Saturday from like 6 to 7 p.m. And then Sunday I'm working 5 to 1. Yeah. So I mean, like, shucks, I guess I'm stuck in front of the TVs all day. Like,
as somebody who had his final fantasy draft last night, I appreciate all the notifications you're going to be sending my way because gonna need them.
I'm exhausted, by the way.
I mean, just the teams on Twitter with Jonathan Taylor, Travis Kelce, Cooper Kupp, making me giggle. Like, it's just like you can wait till the last week of the season and still like be hating your team this far. But
yep,
we got Scott Fishbowl, we got fantasy, we got NFL, we got it's gonna be great. I'm so excited. So
forget all that stuff though, man. We got Kansas this week, dude. Like, this is honestly, outside of obviously going to Vegas, I think Kansas might be one of my favorite tracks we visit. And I think it's definitely partly to do with the fact that this is where Bubba Wallace absolutely kicks ass, and being a huge fan of his, like, I love going to tracks that he's good at and seeing him potentially win. With that said, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to bet on him because the books have clearly adjusted to his past here.
Yep. I think we need to put a poll out and figure out where we should go next year. But I think the short list has probably Bristol, maybe Darlington, maybe Kansas.
Well, if people just to go back on that, Kansas probably still to date is quite possibly the best race we've seen in 2023. The spring race was absolutely incredible. So yeah, hopefully we get something similar.
Charlotte and Darlington seem fun, but they seem like exhausting. Like, I was on my couch and I was exhausted just from the amount of laps, and especially like it feels like they both had weather issues and all kinds of can't get the lights on, nobody's home. And Brian, I was telling you before we started recording, I'm feeling very Charlie Brown of late, where I'm like running. I'm about to kick that football so far, and the NASCAR gods just pull the football out from under me, and I end up face planting on the 50-yard line. So here's what we're going to do. We'll recap the DraftKings. We'll recap the betting card. We'll give some thoughts on the race. We'll hit John Hunter Nemechek heading to Legacy, and then dive into this week's action. So time codes in the description. Jump around to wherever you want. But without further ado, let's take a look. DraftKings was better than the betting card, but not by a ton. Obviously, having Kyle Larson was the move. I think, if you didn't have Larson, you didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Byron was good. Ross Chastain.
Gosh.
Was he good or was he lucky?
So I think here's the thing that personally, I overestimated this, but his long run speed was there, because I don't know if anybody noticed at the end of the race, he was the only driver running 30 whatever second laps coming to like 5 to go, while everyone else had already breached the 31 second mark. So, I mean, Chastain, if had these tire runs been maybe 50 laps instead of like 35 to 40, I think he's much more of a competitor and a challenger for the win. But because guys were really only going 35, max 40 laps on these tires or stretching it maybe shortly over 40, I don't think his long run speed was able to come into play enough over the day for him to find his way up front earlier.
Yeah, and Larson was really good most of the day. Probably should have grabbed some of him live because I tweeted out basically once he got to the front, I was like, he's basically I didn't want to go as far as no one's gonna pass him. I said he's gonna be very hard to pass, and Wormy hit me with the impossible. So I knew, he's winning this.
Well, maybe he was impossible to pass. However, you did see it during that like chase down by Tyler Reddick. Although Reddick did it himself, like there was a couple times that Larson got into the wall because it's like when he gets put under pressure, when somebody's chasing him down, it's almost as if he has a difficult time not driving as the guy chasing somebody. So he's still driving, on edge, which puts himself in bad situations. Like the way Reddick was, which is why Reddick was able to get it to under 2/10 a couple of times. But he got loose and got into the wall. I knew once Larson got to the lead, it's going to be a tall task for anybody to get him. And when Reddick didn't get him on that first time he got up behind him, you kind of figured there was no way, unless Larson blew a tire like Pocono a couple years ago, or just made a blatant mistake.
Yeah, and he did bump the wall a couple times, and it was I was like, oh, is something going to happen? No, nothing happened. So and poor Harrison Burton. Dude. Stupid Alex Bowman and Daniel Suarez are out there having a pissing contest to see who can throw the biggest block, and he just gets caught up in the nonsense. Like, he was having a good day. This is a track we liked him for. And it was a frustrating end for sure.
Let me just say, from my like recent like hankering of watching old school WWF stuff, I want to see a handicap match, Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez versus the HMS Garage, and I'm gonna lay whatever the line is on Trackhouse, because give me the scrappers of the Trackhouse boys over the HMS, like kind of silver spoon nose up dudes, in my opinion. Like, what the hell was Alex Bowman doing? You're blocking with how many laps were left?
Gotta lock up that 27th position, Brian. Yeah, you can't let him get 26 on you.
What are you doing right there? At that point in the race, we had just restarted. There's no reason to block anybody. We weren't coming to 3 to go or 2 to go or anything like that.
Yeah, very frustrating race. I don't even know that I want to talk about Kevin Harvick and the guy spin out, entering pit road, throwing.
Good job, Tyler Reddick. That's all I gotta say.
That was so annoying because Kevin Harvick, despite where he started, was going to be a top 5 machine. Had some head-to-heads that were going to cash.
At worst, top 5.
Like, it was easy money, and of course, no, you can't have that, Kyle. Sorry, you right place, wrong time. Truex, Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, as we mentioned, was good, even though he started 3rd. Like, that was a fine dominator. He was right there with Larson.
He kicked ass. Like, he was really good.
At what, a third of the ownership? Like, that's pretty good. But yeah, Stenhouse was fine. Gilliland was whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, something we didn't even mention. Both Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin, like, the wheels fell off, I guess you could say, literally for Bell, and then
177 laps led and didn't even have a chance to win the race.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So annoying.
Yeah,
I told you I was going to join Ry Capey, and I had 3 plays. It was Denny to win, William Byron top 5, and Kevin Harvick over Brad Keselowski, which was going to cash until it didn't. So annoying. Yeah, Blaney never felt like he was.
No. My rebuttal to that: What the F were he and Kyle Busch thinking? Pitting when nobody else pit, knowing that track position was clearly head over heels more important than even 10 lap different tires. Like, he put himself in such a bad position, and for them to scratch out a top 10 is miraculous, in my opinion. Like, he got mired back in traffic and was stuck in 22nd or 23rd for a good 50 something laps after doing that.
Typical poor
yeah, it's just poor race management by that team. It's terrible.
Yeah. And then there's the red covered bet tracker. Verstappen won, so I was feeling pretty good about having a Kyle Busch at 16 and 20. But Kyle Busch was never really a factor. You did have Blaney over Logano, so congrats to you. Yeah, it's pretty gross. Larson over Truex, I probably should have gone heavier on, but they were both favorites before practice and qualifying.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Byron top 5, which is my favorite bet. He's just been a machine at finishing up there. So really, really nice there. Otherwise, an absolute disaster. A little bit better for you. You had Larson as the top Chevy, which I think is a nice way to play it. I was trying to figure out how I could get some Larson exposure, and I just ended up not taking any. Blaney over Logano obviously worked out for you. The Harvick top 10 should have been free money. The Harvick potentially top 5 could have made sense. I was just going to say,
like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that got spurned by that whole situation, because Harvick is a machine at Darlington, and he just showed it. He showed how good he is at that track before that whole thing went down.
Yeah, the only 2 times he's not basically been really good is when his car got on fire and when he had the random penalty that he didn't really deserve. I don't know what the move was there. I don't know what NASCAR expects him to do, but like,
well, I guess he could have driven through and not actually serviced the car and just like started at
and then come out like 28th or something.
Yeah, I guess, and then just pit with everybody else. But I mean, he was effed at that point.
That seems like bullshit happenstance where he just happened to be going into the pits and then someone gets spun out kind of behind / to the side of him. I don't know.
Yeah, I even tweeted it out. Like, obviously, I had Tyler Reddick was my largest outright exposure on the weekend after watching the pre-race poll with Wormy. Like, I reassessed the information with Tyler Reddick, and I was like, oh. And I also realized he was driving the Jumpman car. So
when I saw that car, I was like, ooh, baby, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. But like, even at that time, I tweeted out, Tyler Reddick should be penalized for what he did. You cannot stop on track. That's essentially what he did. He took his foot out of the gas, had Ryan Newman run into him. Maybe it was payback and he's just not saying it, obviously, because he'll get suspended or fined or something, but it was a stupid move.
Reddick is on a short list with Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney, where I feel like they're better than they're not as good as their odds indicate, or at least because of the stuff that happens with them, usually in stage 3. Their odds don't match, but like they're also incredibly good and could win any race. So it's like,
I was just going to say, it's like they're driving elite equipment, but the numbers don't have their like weird shit that happens in the last stage baked into them.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because the thing is if they put those numbers with the nonsense factor in, they're just going to get hammered every week. And then the one time that they actually are able to cobble it together, they'll
but how often has that actually happened?
It hasn't happened that much.
That's exactly my point.
Ryan Blaney has one race win in 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously Christopher Bell got hot last year, but hasn't been the same guy this year. And
and Reddick, like he's all over the place.
He should have had probably 3 wins, and he just keeps doing dumb stuff. So it's like all good. All right, let's talk odds. Let's see if you can get me into a bet, because as I mentioned to you, I hate the card. I hate the odds this week. So that probably means I'm going to have about 100 bets on my card. But let's talk through it. Obviously, we are in Kansas. a lot of Vegas crossover, some Michigan crossover, something to think about there. Obviously, kind of figure out how to play it. A place where Bubba Wallace has been great, where 2311 has been great. There's a lot to think about. So let's run through the odds. Let's see where we're at practice and qualifying. Obviously, Brian and I will be back. We'll record probably Saturday night after Bama, Texas, which I'm very excited about. And then in your feed promptly Sunday morning. So if there's special stuff you want us to make sure we hit on or questions you guys have, please leave them in the chat. Also, let us know who your favorite outright is this week. And then Brian and I will get to all that. We try and come back, post recording before the race to answer questions and stuff. But with Brian's day job and my lifestyle, things get a little crazy. So I was
gonna say on Sunday mornings I am rather busy with work.
So try and get those in ahead of time. Hit us up on Twitter. That's the best way. But you can also leave comments on the video. We definitely try and make our way back and answer as many as we can. Denny's your favorite, 4.5, 5-1. Kyle Larson, 5-5. Also remind me, Brian, before we leave, to look at the updated playoff odds now that we're one race. We should just take a peek every week to see if there's something interesting there. Kyle Larson, 5.5, 6. Truex right there. Byron, once again, like 4th or 5th, despite being incredible every single week. The aforementioned 2311 Tyler Reddick. And then Christopher Bell is really that last guy that's inside kind of that 10-1 range. Thoughts on this range? Anyone jumping out and anyone you're firing on as for sure additions to the card?
I mean, Byron at 7.5-1 is definitely enticing. Being how good he was Vegas in the spring, him and Kyle Larson were the two best cars there during that day. Byron just has a knack for pulling out really good finishes, regardless of what his car is like, as shown at Darlington this last week. In the spring race here at Kansas, Byron got like 2 laps down or something and still amazingly wound up putting it inside the top 5, I believe. Like, this team is on a roll this year, and to me, they should be they're the championship favorite and the guy that each week is probably the most likely contender for a race win.
Yeah.
But I feel you're going to get a lot of steam on Christopher Bell again. 10-1. He's been really good here. Toyota has won the last 3 and all 3 races at Kansas in the next gen car. They're always fast at Vegas, the largest comp track. And then Michigan, the Toyotas were really good. Reddick was really good there until he made a mistake on pit road or some crap, of course, typical. But yeah, I think that correlates with both Reddick and Bell probably being the biggest values of the favorites.
Yeah, no, I think both those names make sense. They're obviously, like we talked about, they're sexy names. They're closer to that top tier than the people below them.
Yeah.
But they also have shenanigans that happen in every single race that makes them incredibly frustrating to back. I'm really tempted to go to Kyle Larson this week. He is a guy that obviously is incredible at Vegas. Probably should have won the spring race. Very happy that late caution came out and we got overtime, because when I was holding that William Byron ticket, that paid for my weekend. So that was glorious.
Well, okay. So let me ask you a question.
Talk to me.
Should Kyle Larson be the one that is sitting on 4 or 5 victories and not William Byron, or should both of them potentially? Because when you look at Larson's record this season, there's a couple of races where he got wrecked out while in the lead.
Yeah.
Where he was the winning car.
His win total is probably too low. I'm not going to give them all to him. But there's probably at least 1 or 2 more wins.
Well, and then even Auto Club, for instance, he was the best car, but the fact that he went down so many laps so early, he couldn't actually make. And
then Charlotte too, right? I'm trying to remember. There was one in May or June that he was dominating, and then I forget what happened, and he ended up kind of out of the picture.
Well, there's the 2 Denny incidents.
Oh yeah,
this is the Denny incident from earlier this season when Denny turned him against the wall. So
he's my nemesis. I've officially gone in when he's either wrecking the guys that I'm betting on. He's wrecking himself if I'm betting on him. Yep. He's complaining about being wrecked, but the first guy to knock somebody out of the way. I have 2 11s for Denny Hamlin. So I think I'm gonna add Kyle Larson, but I'm gonna talk through it and see if there's a better way to attack that.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next range. As you mentioned, Bubba Wallace, incredibly interesting here, but sportsbooks are pricing him like that. 12-1, 13-1. Pretty tough to get to, given you can go up to maybe a Reddick or a Chris Bell. But
I was just gonna say on the Bell note, like Christopher Bell's average start at Kansas in the next gen is 5.7. Like he's started on pole before. He's always putting it near the front. So I mean, if you're looking for somebody whose odds are probably going to shrink, if he puts it on pole or on the front row, he's probably in that 7 range. So if you want,
or you bet him to win the pole and then roll that money into him winning the race.
Oh, that's true. We'll get to that a little. I have a. You probably already saw it when Kyle pulled up the sheet, but yeah, there's one pole bet that I'm hitting.
The rest of this range, Kyle Busch, who RCR just doesn't have the consistent speed week to week. It's really frustrating.
However, the number 8 car, the number 8 car with Tyler Reddick was great here. He put it on the front row, I think, twice.
Yep, and Vegas is a place where Kyle Busch is good. Christopher Buescher, speaking of Michigan winners, speaking of constantly in the top 5, I'm going to post to you what Chris Wormy posted on Twitter. Can Chris Buescher win the whole dang thing, win the NASCAR championship?
Why not? He's got speed. But do I think it's going to happen? No, but when you look at recency of like what we've seen over the last month or so, who's running better than Chris Buescher or RFK? Nobody.
Yeah, but we also talked about, we talked about it with Wormy, how a lot of those tracks don't really apply, and there's not, but
hey, look at what he did at Darlington. He's
doing what he needs to do.
Yeah,
he found his way an outright ticket on Darlington. I think he's a Final Four, not a championship guy, but I think there's going to be opportunity to hedge if he gets there. So that's kind of where my head's at.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about Chris Buescher real quick, it's interesting. Like, obviously, I'm a huge Chris Buescher fan, but I wonder when the time to, like you said, hedge or fade comes, because there's always a regression to something. Like, when does his bad race occur?
Yeah, this would probably be it. Because Bristol, I think he's better at the shorter tracks. Like, he won at Richmond. Obviously, Bristol's not a flat track, but
no, I see what you're saying. That's what I mean. Like, is this the week that you go?
This is probably the week to fade him if you want to fade him in matchups, because he's priced aggressively.
And the RFK cars have not been. Oh well, they were good at Michigan, which isn't a perfect comp, but they were bad at the other 1.5 high speed type tracks earlier this season.
Ross Chastain's the last guy in this like kind of chunk before we get to the 20-1 number.
Nope.
Okay. I'm completely out on Trackhouse, but you seem to have a glimmer in your eye, so I was just checking out to see where we're at. Let's talk about the next range. 20-1, some playoff drivers, some non. Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano. Anything in this range jumping out to you as someone you're interested in, and or someone you're like, can't wait to fade him?
Well, obviously, I'm always going to gravitate towards Blaney. I would love to bet him at this number because I think he's got the talent to win. And anytime you get, these type of odds at a track where, celebrates speed and all that type of stuff, you've seen Blaney do well here before, but Ford has not been good. And they haven't won, I believe, since 2019 at this track. They've actually, One interesting stat, I was looking it up this morning, like they don't even finish inside the top 10 here. They only have, I think it's 2 top 10 finishers in the last 3 races in the next gen car here. They only have 13 total top 10 finishers at the Vegas it was the last 7 in Kansas. They only have 13 total top 10 finishers at this track. So it's like, they're just not good at these at this track. Like they don't have the speed to keep up with the HMSs and the RCRs even. And then of course the entire Toyota garage seems to have the setup for this Pat.
Remind me to look at Top Ford, because I think Blaney could be interesting there.
Yep, Top Ford is one of my favorite markets
was in this race last year, started 9th, was 2nd after stage 1, was 9th after stage 2, finished 9th. And then in the spring race was kind of like a top 15 car, but to your point, Ford is just generally doo-doo. So Logano, Harvick, not really that good. I will say Logano won Vegas, and there's a little comp to that. So, but it really seems like he's not at the same level as we saw at the end last year.
Yeah, he's been by far second tier in the Penske garage. And to me, like, I feel like the 2 biggest contenders for the top Ford result this week would probably be a Buescher, just based on what he's done recently. Yeah. And then probably Keselowski. But again, I don't think they're built for this type of track. Whereas Ryan Blaney has been pretty consistent at running at these track types, even when his car is not great. So, I mean, you can go with a Buescher you can go with both of those guys and you get better odds on their top Ford number for a manufacturer who sucks here than you do at their top 10 mark. So just take them to be the top manufacturer.
Yeah, because you can legitimately be like somewhere between 7 and 13 and be the top.
Yeah, exactly. Ford. Yeah, and I just double checked my stats. It's they have 1 top 10 they had 1 top 10 at Kansas this year, and they have 5 total top 10s at Vegas in the next gen car. So the 2 biggest comparable tracks, like.
Yep. As we dive into the longer odds, is there anyone? I mean, there's Bowman and Gibbs, and then there's everyone else. Is there any lottery ticket, longer shot guys that you're like, do I think they'll win? Probably not, but it's worthwhile taking a shot to see what they can do.
I mean, I think Ty Gibbs is extremely interesting, but like at 35 though, I don't know if that's long enough for me to get there.
Like 50.
Yeah. With that said, though, I do think that this number gets shorter as.
Yeah. After practicing, we should look back at what his odds were for the Vegas race, because I think that would be a good, interesting point to see where he was, because he was running well there in that part of the year, and the playoff races are very similar, so we could see a lot of corollary, a lot of crossover, and maybe he is somebody that's better like a top 5 bet. But
I was just gonna say, I feel like Gibbs he's got some decent value in the placement market.
So let's go look at that, and let's look at what Caesars has to offer. Obviously, shop everything, find the best number, but their stuff's all laid out. So Brad K top Ford at plus 375 as a boost, Harvick to win at 25, and then Bubba and Blaney to both top 10 at 3-1.
I don't hate that.
No, it's not bad. Okay, so let's go manufacturer and then finishing position, or you want to do top 10 first?
Let's look at top 10s, because there's some interesting, obviously a lot of the numbers suck, but
yeah, so obviously we're gonna get the short end of the stick with a lot of these guys. I think the names where we can really start is probably the Buescher Bubba air range minus 150.
Yeah,
Bubba at minus 150 is fine. I think I'd rather attack it another way. Do you have any interest in Chastain or Chase, or even like some of these guys at like even money?
Definitely not going after Chastain after he gave me a friggin' heart attack at Darlington. I went very heavy on his top 10 at plus money in South Carolina, and thankfully that cashed, but I can't do that again. I do think Kyle Busch minus 130 at a track he's traditionally done well at, that the car did qualified amazing. I mean, Reddick ran into issues, so it's not like the finishing results he put together were indicative of the type of equipment he was in. But Kyle Busch, of anybody, he could stay up there and just, finagle his way into the top 10. I think he's somebody that's on my radar for sure.
Yeah, it's not a bad number. Curious to see if it's worth waiting on, but he's probably someone you want to fire on. We talked about the Fords. They're kind of frustrating and probably not smart bets. Ty Gibbs, we talked about him. Plus 160, I think, is a fine number for a top 10.
So that was my first bet I tweeted out. It was either this morning or yesterday. I don't remember when the hell I did it, but I got it on our favorite offshore, the BOV, blah, 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 plus 180. So I like it at that number. I like it closer to 2-1. I don't know if I can get there at plus 160, but again, dude is going to qualify well. Of the similar tracks, Kansas, Michigan, Vegas, he's qualified, I think it's 7th or better in all of those.
Yeah, it looks like 150, 160 is probably best in market. So yeah, if you can get north of 160, it's probably a nice value there.
Yeah, and so I have a feeling this goes off at probably plus 120, maybe plus 130 if you're lucky post qualifying, because he's gonna be fast. That's the one thing, he's gonna unload extremely fast.
Let's look at top 5 because I think there is some names like Bubba Wallace at plus 160, Kyle Busch at plus 190. What about Bowman? Is he just he's just trash, right? Like, because I think I've traditionally liked him at Vegas and and Michigan. He's,
I think he's like checked out. It's just
it kind of seems like that, but he's 4-1 to top 5. He's, what's his number to top 10? 125. Yeah, top 5 number is kind of interesting, but I feel like he's much more of a 7 to 10 car than he is a 3 to 5.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of.
Yeah. All right, let's go to manufacturer because I think that's where stuff gets fun. Let's start top 4. I told you I wanted to look at that. So Buescher plus 230, Brad K plus 320, Ryan Blaney plus 375.
Ooh, that actually that went lower. It was 4-1 this morning.
Yeah,
but this just highlights what I was talking about, because Ford struggles to even crack a top 10 here. Why bother betting plus 110 on Blaney or Buescher minus 150, no matter how good he's looked, when you could get him at almost 3 times that odds to just be the top finisher for the Fords.
Yeah.
Like maybe 2 of them. I think the max number of Fords to finish inside the top 10 at Vegas or Kansas in the next gen is 2. So I mean, like who's he battling here?
Buescher.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like you're not going to get a handful of Fords finishing inside the top 10. It's just not going to happen.
I agree. Top Toyota, we got Denny, we got Truex, we got Reddick. Bubba plus 575 is really nice.
The one thing about that though is, if he's the top Toyota, he's probably finishing inside the top 3.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That's kind of the way that I look at that.
Are we feeling the same about Chevy with like a Byron or a Larson?
Yeah, but what are their top 3 numbers?
Let's take a look.
Yeah, I liked the Larson top Chevy last week just because he was head over heels better than everybody else. And
his number was so much better as a top Chevy than.
Yeah.
He's plus 160 to top 3, so that's better.
Yeah, because you run the risk of what we saw in Vegas where it's Byron versus Larson. So you might as well just hit the top 3 market there.
And he's plus 175 on BetRivers. I'm adding that. I know, Brian. I have no self-control. It's fine.
I think I'm trying to talk myself out of this.
Don't do it.
But I think we're going to go head to head.
You're going to add Billy and Byron?
I think so.
Plus 225 is a really nice number. I mean, we could bet them both, and they get top 2 with Denny or Truex.
But I can get Byron at plus 230 to top Chevy.
You could, which is a better number.
I like the top 3 though. What's his top 5 number, Byron? Let's see. Oh, plus 110. Nah, that's garbage. Yeah, I'm gonna hit the Byron top 3.
I think that's a fine bet. I wouldn't fault anybody who went with either of those. We did top Toyota. We did top Ford. Matchup City.
Yeah, we definitely got to hit the matchups.
Okay, so we got Kyle Busch plus 120 versus Reddick. We have Byron as a minus 125 favorite. We got some serious movement in the head-to-heads. Larson versus Truex. Harvick versus Brad K. Your favorite bet of the week. Any of these standing out to you? Let's go over here.
Not necessarily. I do like Blaney over Logano just based on what we've seen speed wise.
But once again, I'd rather do top Ford.
Exactly.
And get really paid out on it. Like, I understand it. Neither of them could do it, but I think if Blaney's fine, then he's pretty good.
Well, and then just on that case, like you just said that, outside of Logano, who Blaney, in my opinion, should finish ahead of, who's he battling for top Ford? Honestly, like, as good as Harvick is, I think Blaney's car is faster than Harvick's, and so he's going against Buescher and Keselowski. Like, why lay minus 120 on that?
Yeah.
And you can just bet top Ford and get almost 4-1.
I'm taking Larson over Hamlin at plus 102. I think that's a good bet. I know Denny could crush me, but I think it's fine. Okay.
Ooh, I like that.
What's that? Byron over Denny?
No, so Blaney versus Harvick at BetRivers.
Yeah, it's a nice bet. Once again, you're just taking on all the Fords. I guess it could make sense because Buescher could get it and then you could still win. But
that to me, that opens up RFK and him losing to Logano because to me, Penske's been faster than SHR as a whole.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on your end? Was it Logano over Chastain? Plus money.
I don't want any part in either of those guys. I'm all set. I am all set. Okay. Let's look at the
here we go. I got another one.
Okay.
Ty Gibbs over Alex Bowman.
Ooh, now that I kind of like.
Plus money.
Bowman the Slowman.
Plus 102 at BetRivers.
That's nice.
Like, obviously, I am converting to he gets us this weekend.
Because he does. He gets us.
He gets us, yes.
Do they not have Cup Championship odds?
No, you have to go to, right there. You just passed it.
No, it's right there, but then it doesn't show anything.
Oh, you have to go up, scroll up.
Oh, future bets?
You have to go to future, yeah.
There we go. So now Kyle Larson's gone from like 6-1 to 4.5 or 4-1.
It's just because he's guaranteed a spot in the round of 8.
Yep. Byron at 5, Hamlin at 5, Buescher at 850. When I got him at 20. That's pretty nice,
dude. Reddick at 12-1. I'm sitting on a 25-1 ticket from months ago.
Yeah. Would you bet any of the longer shots? I think Bubba at 75. We talked about it with me. I think I'm still sort of interested just because I think he could win this week, and all of a sudden that number is half of what it is. But
the thing though is you might be half, and it might go down to 40. But
yeah, and it still might be trash bet. So
yeah, like I feel like you'd almost want to secure a place in the round of 8 for somebody like him. Whereas, like, look. I rag on this guy all the time, but Logano at 25-1. I mean, who is better in crunch time over the last couple of years? Like, Logano's great.
Yep. All right, you ready to review the card and get out of here?
Whoa! Qualifying bet.
Oh, I forgot. My bad. Sorry, I got excited.
No, I think I think Kyle is stuck in the Charlie Brown mode, like he said, and just wants to get out before he gets too exposed.
Yeah, no, I'm loving my card. There's three names on it. It feels good.
Yeah, but why do both of us? Now I'm scared because I am betting Ryan Blaney to be the top forward.
It's a good bet. It's a good
You're
bet.
Gonna have to
at
change
that
it to
number.
BetRivers though, because it's 4-1, by the way.
Nice.
All right. So qualifying. Like I said, I don't like getting too exposed on these. Damn it got shorter.
It always does.
But Ty Gibbs.
He gets us.
He's 22-1 on Caesars right now. It just got it was 25-1 earlier. You get it 25-1 at our favorite outright or favorite offshore, and I think it's 25 at BetRivers too.
Yeah, that would make sense. Byron at 6.5, I don't hate. He's really fast at these, and he's put it on the pole a few times. Bell at 9 is fine. Bubba at 12. Do you trust Bubba to get it on the pole?
I don't know.
I don't trust Buescher or Chastain or Harvick or Kyle Busch.
No, honestly, I feel like it's going to be a Toyota or a Chevy that's on pole for sure.
And should we be talking about Chase Elliott a little bit more, or is he fine to write off given how crappy
he's double ace? Like, no.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just kind of there. Like,
yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. But I always like to do a check-in to make sure I'm not being irrational. If you think Chase is worth a look this week, let us know down in the comments.
He's definitely good, but
yeah, I feel like part of me is like he's not gonna get shut out, but at the same time, it's just been a season from hell. He's probably mentally checked out. He's ready to go on vacation.
Yeah,
he's good. And I'm not getting crazy with any of these guys.
Man, I'm trying to figure out an outright because. Yeah,
we can look at the outright card again just to see, but
no, I'm gonna add the Byron 7.5. You got Larson, I got Byron.
I haven't put Larson on yet.
Oh,
let's see. Where's there it is. Yeah. It's tempting. Like I said, I want to fire. 6-1 isn't tempting, but I have some exposure. Like I said, I don't love the card this week. There's nothing. I'm gonna have to do some research. I'm gonna have to watch practice and qualifying, and I'll find something. There's nothing jumping out to me as this 30-1 is going to be 10-1 if I don't bet it now. This plus whatever is going to be minus money if I don't bet it now. It's just like I'm having trouble getting mentally to any of those spots.
Well, speak for yourself, because
I'm just happy one of us is going buck wild and spraying the board, because if I feel like I have to carry that for the show, and you're very like reserved.
Normally, for sure, I am. Yeah.
And then by the end of the day, Saturday, we're both beyond extended. But I'm just saying, like I think the guys, the names that I like the most this week are probably Denny, Larson, and Byron, and they all have really gross numbers. That especially Larson and Denny, like. If Denny or Larson go out and are a second and a half faster than everybody, and everybody else looks like crap, then their number probably goes to 2.5 or 3-1. But like for the most part, it's hard to envision them going anywhere from where they are. And if they do, it's because it'll be like a Truex thing where they go from 5 to 8 or 9 because they had crappy qualifying.
Yeah.
So. Byron's the only one that I'm interested in, that I think if he puts it on pole or pretty close, he's probably like 5-1.
Denny and Larson, yeah, for sure.
And yeah, and like
I was
Reddick
just gonna
and
say
Bell are interesting, but even the Avatar knows he's a ghost. He don't bet on him. Like, I still don't understand why Action Network. I don't know if it's like he didn't sell his face to NASCAR.
He's whatever John Dowd.
He
He's
is.
Barry Bonds.
He is the Barry Bonds or the Michael Jordan from like NBA Live '95.
Yeah, where he's not allowed to have the originators of like the name, image, and likeness debate who refuse to have their likenesses in video games.
Yeah. Okay, anything else you want to look at before we review our modified cards and get out of here?
Man, I just I love this track. I
do too. I'm very excited to watch the race. Like I said, it will be prominently featured on my display on Sunday. That being said, I don't love the odds that the books are giving us.
Let me just say it's a good thing I'm not in Vegas this weekend because it would
be a glorious weekend to be in Vegas.
I would have a lot of money.
Between college football and NASCAR and NFL and just okay. So I currently have 3 bets, which is very unlike me. I have Blaney top forward. I like that at 4-1. I have Kyle Larson to top 3 plus 175. And I have Larson over Hamlin at plus money. Brian has Ty Gibbs to put it on the poll. Byron and Reddick as outrights. Byron top 3. Gibbs over Bowman, which I think is really nice too. And then Blaney as the top forward. Brian Twining, what is your best bet?
I'm going to go with the Blaney top forward. I just I love Chris Buescher, but Blaney was before the Buescher. So Blaney was in line to finish top forward last weekend in Darlington too, until that absolutely stupid ass decision to pit to surrender track position. So I'm hitting it again.
I'm going Larson top 3. I think he is going to be absolutely in the conversation all day. I think he's going to be really good, potentially get a win. So that's where I'm going. That is Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Let us know your best bets, and we'll talk to you next time.